It was Christmas Eve. Our little town was blanketed in snow. It looked like a picture postcard. Everything was sparkling white. The air was crisp and cold. You could see your breath in the air. The trees were heavy with snow. They looked like giant marshmallows. Kids were bundled up in warm clothes. They were laughing and playing in the snow. Everything felt peaceful and still. Christmas was in the air. Christmas lights twinkled everywhere. They were like a million tiny stars. The houses were decorated with wreaths and garlands. Christmas carols played softly in the background. The smell of gingerbread and hot chocolate filled the air. It was warm and inviting. Everyone was in the Christmas spirit. People rushed around with smiles on their faces. They were buying last-minute gifts. The church bells chimed merrily in the distance. Our town was small. Everyone knew everyone. We all grew up together. We went to the same school and played in the same park. We had our own traditions. Every year we had a huge snowball fight on Christmas Eve. It was the highlight of the season. We'd been doing it for as long as I could remember. We took our snowball fight seriously. We had teams, captains, and strategies. It was more than just a game. It was a matter of pride. Our town had a lot of kids, but the snowball fight only had one rule. You had to be 10 years old to play. This year there were 5 of us. First there was me, Billy. I loved Christmas, I loved the snow, and I loved snowball fights. I was ready to win. Then there was Emily. She was my best friend. Emily was small, but she was tough. She could throw a snowball farther than anyone else I knew. Next up was Tommy. Tommy was the tallest kid in our class. He could build the best snow forts. He also had a wicked fast throw. We also had Sophie. She was the smartest kid in our class. Sophie was a great strategist. She always came up with the best battle plans. Last but not least was Michael. Christmas Eve morning arrived. The whole town was buzzing with excitement. I woke up to the smell of cinnamon rolls baking. My mom was already busy in the kitchen. My dad was decorating the Christmas tree. He hummed along to Christmas carols. My little sister Lily was running around the house in her pajamas. She was as hyper as a sugar-crazed reindeer. I couldn't wait to tell my family about the snowball fight. They were just as excited as I was. My dad gave me some tips on throwing snowballs. The Millers were ready for a Christmas Eve showdown. Next door, Emily was just as excited. She lived with her grandpa, Mr. Thompson. He was the kindest old man in town. Everyone loved Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson loved Christmas just as much as Emily did. He always told the best Christmas stories. He said he used to build giant snow forts when he was a kid. Emily and Mr. Thompson were decorating their Christmas tree. They had ornaments that had been passed down for generations. Each ornament had a special story behind it. The Thompsons' house was filled with the warm glow of Christmas lights. It smelled like pine needles and freshly baked cookies. Emily couldn't wait to tell Mr. Thompson all about our snowball fight strategy. They were ready for the big day. After breakfast, I raced next door to Emily's house. We had a lot of work to do. We needed to gather the team and start making our battle plan. First things first, we needed a team name. We brainstormed for a few minutes. Then, Emily shouted, "I got it! We'll be the Snowball Ninjas!" The Snowball Ninjas, I repeated. We were going to have the best snowball fight ever. We found Tommy and Sophie building a snowman in the park. They were already hard at work. They had a mountain of snow in front of them. It was going to be epic. "Hey guys!" Emily called out, her breath forming a cloud in the frosty air. "We have a team name!" Tommy and Sophie turned around, their faces lit up with curiosity. "We're the Snowball Ninjas!" I announced proudly. We were ready for action! Now that we had a team name, we needed a plan. We gathered around a picnic table, our breath misting in the cold air. This was serious business. "Okay, Snowball Ninjas," Sophie began, her voice taking on a strategic tone. "We need to divide and conquer. Tommy, you're in charge of building our fortress." Tommy, our resident architect, nodded eagerly. He was already sketching out a design in the snow with his stick. "Emily, you and Billy, you're on Snowball Patrol?" We were ready to build an arsenal of snowballs. We spent the next hour transforming a giant snowdrift into an impenetrable fortress. Tommy, with his engineering genius, had outdone himself. The fort had towering walls complete with strategically placed peepholes for launching surprise attacks. We took turns packing snowballs with Emily and me, creating a stockpile. Our fingers were numb, but our spirits were soaring. Fort Snow Ninja was officially open for business. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the snow-covered park, a hush fell over our little corner of the world. We gathered inside Fort Snow Ninja, our faces flushed with exertion and excitement. We were ready. We had the fort, the strategy, and enough snowballs to bury our opponents in a blizzard of frosty fury. All that was missing were our opponents. We waited, our eyes scanning the park for the first sign of movement. Suddenly, figures emerged from behind a cluster of snow-laden trees at the edge of the park. They were bundled in winter gear, their faces hidden behind scarves and hats, but there was no mistaking their intent. It was the competition. 2 figures, then 3, then 4, until finally a small army of snowball warriors stood before us. They were more numerous than we had anticipated. "Looks like we've got company," Emily whispered, her eyes widening with a mix of excitement and apprehension. I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. The moment we had been waiting for. This was going to be one epic snowball fight. "Fire!" Sophie's voice cut through the tension and the battle commenced. We unleashed a volley of snowballs, our aim true and our throws powerful. The air was filled with the sound of laughter, shouts of surprise, and the satisfying thud of snowballs finding their targets. Snow flew through the air, a chaotic ballet of white against the backdrop of the twilight sky. I ducked behind a snowbank as a snowball whizzed past my ear. We had the element of surprise on our side, and Fort Snow Ninja provided excellent cover. The battle raged on. Snowballs flew back and forth like icy comets. We ducked, we dodged, we weaved, all the while returning fire with a vengeance. Tommy proved to be a valuable asset, his lanky frame making him a difficult target to hit. Sophie, our strategist, directed our defense with the precision of a seasoned general. Emily, small but mighty, zipped through the snowdrifts like a miniature warrior, her aim deadly and her throws swift. She took down opponent after opponent, her laughter ringing out across the battlefield. Despite our best efforts, the tide began to turn. Our opponents, realizing that a direct assault on Fort Snow Ninja was futile, had resorted to a new tactic: flanking maneuvers. They were surrounding us, slowly but surely cutting off our escape routes and picking us off one by one. We needed a new plan, and fast. "They're surrounding us," I shouted. "We need to create a diversion," Sophie said, her voice taking on a determined edge. But what could we use as a diversion? Suddenly, a snowball, larger than any I had ever seen, came hurtling through the air from the direction of the enemy lines. It crashed into the base of our fort, sending a shockwave through the snow and showering us with a fine mist of icy particles. The opposing team, caught off guard by the unexpected projectile, turned on each other, accusations flying faster than snowballs. But who had thrown it? It was a mystery that for the moment we were all too happy to ignore. Sophie, ever the quick thinker, seized the opportunity. "This is our chance!" she yelled over the commotion. "Everybody, run!" We didn't need to be told twice. We scrambled out of the back of Fort Snow Ninja, our hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The snow-covered ground was slick beneath our feet as we sprinted across the park. Behind us, the enemy team was still embroiled in their internal conflict, oblivious to our escape. Snowballs flew haphazardly through the air, accompanied by shouts and accusations. We were almost there. Our escape was short-lived. A cry of "They're getting away!" pierced the air, followed by the unmistakable sound of pounding footsteps on snow. The enemy had regrouped, and they were hot on our trail. The chase was on. We dodged and weaved through the trees, our pursuers closing in. Snowballs whizzed past our heads, leaving trails of cold air in their wake. We pushed ourselves harder, our lungs burning with exertion. Tommy, with his long legs, took the lead, his scarf trailing behind him like a banner of defiance. Emily, agile as a squirrel, scrambled over a snowdrift, leaving our pursuers struggling in her wake. "Michael, hurry!" I shouted, my voice barely audible above the wind whistling through the trees. But Michael just shook his head, his breath coming in ragged gasps. I can't," he wheezed. "Go on without me. We're not leaving you behind," Emily shouted back. She doubled back, grabbing Michael's arm and pulling him along. What was Michael trying to tell us? What secret was he hiding? Before we could question him further, a figure stepped out from behind a particularly large oak tree, blocking our path. It was a girl, a little older than the rest of us, with fiery red hair peeking out from beneath her woolen hat. She held a single snowball in her hand, but her stance was not threatening. She looked at us, her blue eyes sparkling with an emotion I couldn't quite place. Was it amusement, curiosity, pity, going somewhere? She asked, her voice surprisingly calm amidst the chaos of the snowball fight still raging behind us. Looks like we've got a lot to talk about, she said, tossing the snowball lightly from one hand to the other. We stood there, panting and confused, as the girl with the fiery red hair approached us. She seemed to radiate an aura of confidence that both intrigued and intimidated us. Don't worry, she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. I'm not here to hurt you. She tossed the snowball in her hand up and down, catching it effortlessly each time. Who are you? Emily asked, her voice a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. My name is Sarah, the girl replied, a smile playing on her lips. And I think it's time we cleared up a few things, don't you? She glanced pointedly at Michael, who was now avoiding eye contact with all of us. What do you mean? I asked, feeling a knot of unease forming in my stomach. What did this Sarah know about Michael? And what did it have to do with the giant snowball that had turned the tide of the battle? Sarah took a step closer, her gaze fixed on Michael. Tell them, Michael, she said softly. Tell them what you did. Michael hesitated, his face turning crimson beneath the traces of snow on his cheeks. I didn't mean to, he mumbled, his voice barely audible. It was an accident. Accident? Tommy scoffed. That thing was the size of a small car. How do you accidentally throw a snowball that big? Michael took a deep breath and finally met our gaze, his eyes filled with remorse. I was aiming for the tree, he confessed, his voice trembling slightly. I wanted to impress you guys. I thought if I could knock down a tree with a snowball. He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. It all became clear. Michael, in his eagerness to prove himself to our group, had accidentally launched the giant snowball that had disrupted the entire snowball fight. He hadn't meant to sabotage his former team. He had just been trying too hard to fit in. A wave of understanding, and perhaps a touch of sympathy, washed over me. Michael's actions, though misguided, had stemmed from a desire to be accepted, a feeling we all knew too well. It's okay, Michael, Emily said, her voice gentle. We get it. Sarah nodded in agreement. We've all been there, she said, her gaze sweeping over each of us, trying to find our place, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. She looked back at Michael, but sometimes, she continued, the best way to fit in is to just be yourself. She paused, then added with a twinkle in her eye, even if that means accidentally launching a giant snowball across the park. We all laughed, the tension that had been building between us dissolving like snowflakes on a warm winter coat. Even Michael managed a small smile. As the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky, painting the snow-covered park in hues of pink and purple, a serene calm settled over the landscape. We found ourselves standing together, no longer rivals but allies, united by a shared love of snowball fights and the true spirit of Christmas. The air was filled with laughter and the crunch of snow under our boots. The snowball fight was over, but the memories we had made, the lessons we had learned, would stay with us long after the snow had melted. We talked and laughed, reminiscing about the day's adventures. We had learned that true friendship meant accepting each other's flaws, embracing our differences, and finding strength in our unity. That teamwork could overcome even the most challenging obstacles, and that together we were capable of creating something truly special. And that sometimes, even the most chaotic situations could lead to unexpected moments of grace and understanding, moments that would shape our bonds forever. As the stars twinkled above us and the sound of Christmas carols drifted through the frosty air, we knew that this Christmas Eve would be one we would never forget. The magic of the night was palpable, It was a night filled with laughter, adventure, and the warmth of friendship that kept the cold at bay. And the realization that the true magic of Christmas lay not in the presents we received, but in the moments we shared. In the connections we forged, the bonds that grew stronger with each passing moment, and the kindness we shared with one another, a kindness that warmed our hearts and souls. And of course, in the epic snowball fights that would forever be a part of our childhood memories, a testament to the joy and camaraderie of the season. With the great snowball battle behind us, a sense of peace settled over the park. The sky deepened into a velvety night, stars starting to pepper the vast expanse above. Our little band, a motley crew united by snowballs and newfound friendship, decided to head home. We were all famished. The walk back was filled with a different kind of energy. Gone was the frantic rush of the chase, the thrill of competition. Instead, a comfortable silence settled among us, punctuated by the crunch of our boots on the snow and the occasional burst of laughter as we recounted the events of the evening. We reached my house first. The warm, inviting glow spilled from the windows, painting squares of golden light onto the snow-covered lawn. The aroma of my mom's famous roast turkey wafted out, making my stomach rumble in anticipation. "Come on, guys," I said, my breath forming a cloud in the frosty air. "You're all having dinner with us tonight." The miller's dining room was a sight to behold, a true winter wonderland. A crackling fire roared in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls adorned with Christmas cards and twinkling fairy lights. The warmth from the fire made the room feel even cozier. The long oak table was laden with a feast fit for a king. A golden brown roast turkey, fluffy mashed potatoes, steaming gravy, and an assortment of vegetables. There was an array of side dishes that made my mouth water, from buttery rolls to cranberry sauce, and even a rich, creamy casserole. My mom, her cheeks flushed from the heat of the oven, ushered us all to our seats with a smile that could light up the room. Laughter filled the room as we recounted the adventures of the snowball fight, each of us embellishing the story with our own heroic exploits. The children's eyes sparkled with excitement as they shared their tales. My dad, ever the jovial host, raised his glass of eggnog, his face beaming with joy. "A toast," he announced, his eyes twinkling merrily, "to new friends, good food, and cherished memories, and the spirit of Christmas." We all raised our glasses high. We all clinked glasses, the sound of our laughter mingling with the crackle of the fire and the soft murmur of Christmas carols playing on the radio. The moment felt magical. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of family and the joy of newfound friendship, the true meaning of Christmas came alive. It was a night to remember, filled with love, laughter, and the spirit of togetherness. As the evening progressed, a sense of contentment settled over me. We shared stories, jokes, and Christmas carols, our laughter echoing through the house long after the last of the pumpkin pie had been devoured. Later, we gathered around our Christmas tree, its branches laden with ornaments that held years of memories. The soft glow of the lights painted our faces in a warm light as we exchanged gifts, each present a symbol of our newfound bond. But the greatest gift of all, I realized, was the gift of friendship. The snowball fight had brought us together, a motley crew of kids from different backgrounds and with different personalities. Yet in the heat of battle, and in the quiet moments of shared laughter and stories, we had discovered a bond that went beyond competition and rivalry. We had discovered the true meaning of Christmas, the joy of giving, the importance of kindness, and the power of forgiveness. As the evening drew to a close, and the first flakes of a new snowfall began to fall outside, I stood by the window, watching my friends make their way home, their silhouettes receding into the snowy night. The air was crisp, and the world seemed to be wrapped in a blanket of white tranquility. On the windowsill, a single snowball sat untouched, a silent reminder of the epic battle that had brought us all together. It was a moment frozen in time, capturing the essence of our camaraderie. But it was more than just a snowball. It held within it the memories of laughter and the spirit of the season. It was a symbol of the spirit of Christmas, a spirit of joy, laughter, and the enduring power of friendship. The snowball represented the bonds we had formed and the joy we shared. From that day forward, the annual Christmas Eve snowball fight became a tradition in our town, a reminder that even in the midst of competition, there was always room for kindness, compassion, and the true spirit of the season. It was a time when the community came together, united by the simple joy of a snowball fight. And every year, as the snow fell and the laughter of children filled the air, I would remember the Christmas Eve we became the Snowball Ninjas, a name that carried with it the magic of that night. And the magical night we discovered that the greatest gifts are often found in the most unexpected places. The end.